Hello, everyone. I wish you a warm welcome to the panel on brand new forms of political participation. My name is Tiaji Seal, and I'm a graduate student at Harvard Kennedy School. We are living in an increasingly polarized world, a world that seems to be in disarray, a world that calls for inclusive and innovative policy solutions to its most pressing challenges, ranging from climate change and social systems to migration and security. Many challenges for our time are complex and urgent, but they also provide enormous opportunities for shaping the future. And while many young people are interested in politics, only few are actually getting involved in traditional political structures because they do not feel represented. And both in Germany and the USA, society is becoming increasingly diverse, but our democratic institutions do not sufficiently reflect the shifted reality. Our panelists today want to tackle these shortcomings. And before we begin the discussion, I would briefly like to introduce them to you. Verena Hubertz is a member of the Social Democratic Party who got elected into the German parliament just a month ago. She was recognized as a political talent by the incubator Join Politics, and she hopes to shape the future of work and advocate for digitization. She is the founder and former managing director of Kitchen Stories, which is a video-based cooking platform with over 20 million users and more than 50 employees. Awet Tesfaiesus is a member of the Green Party, and she is the first Black woman in the German parliament. Previously, she worked as a lawyer with a focus on asylum law, and in the new Bundestag, she wants to advocate for anti-racist policies. And Adrienne is the executive director of Brand New Congress, which is a bipartisan organization which aims at supporting candidates of diverse background to run for office. And last but not least, Max Oehl is the founder of Brand New Bundestag, which is BNC's German equivalent that hopes to bring new impulses into German politics and thereby strengthen our democracy for the future. During this past election, 3 candidates that were supported by Brand New Bundestag made it into the parliament. We are very excited to have you all here and learn from all of you. Now I would like to hand it over to our moderator, Diba, who is the co-founder of DIVERSITRY, an initiative that aims at increasing diversity and inclusion in the German federal administration.
Hi, so thank you, Tiaji, for your kind words and at your introduction. I'm very much looking forward to being here today, to moderating this event. And I would like to welcome you as well. It's great to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. And a warm welcome to you, Awet, to Verena, to Max, and to Adrienne. Thanks for joining us today. It's great. I think you have a tight schedule, so having you here on a Saturday means a lot. We appreciate it a lot. And I'm very much looking forward to discussing with you about brand new forms of political participation and how the future might look like for the emerging young talents. So just to make clear a bit of the technical stuff, if you have some questions, please use the Q&A button. I will try to incorporate your questions throughout the discussion. Otherwise, we have around 20 minutes at the end for your questions, so don't hesitate to ask anything. And since you don't have much time, and I think that Adrienne is still not there, but maybe we can just start already, and if Adrienne joins, we can ask her later some questions. So Max, I would like to start with you actually. So you have co-founded Brand New Bundestag, which is sort of the German version of Brand New Congress. And it seems at least that you fight for the same causes as Brand New Congress. So maybe you can tell us a bit about what Brand New Bundestag actually does, and if there are any differences or similarities to Brand New Congress.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure to speak here today, and I'm looking forward to exchanging thoughts with you guys on how to make politics more progressive and more diverse. And yeah, Brand New Bundestag was founded in 2019, summer of 2019, and was actually heavily inspired by the US example of Brand New Congress. It was not least the Knock Down the House documentary on Netflix, which inspired us to think about how you can adapt this approach to the German context. And this is what we've been trying since. And similarities are certainly the political agenda that we're pursuing. So Brand New Bundestag is a progressive grassroots organization which is aiming to foster a more equal distribution of wealth, decisive action on climate change, humanitarian approaches to migration and refugee protection, to name just a few items on the agenda list. And we are dedicated to making the parliament more progressive and more diverse. And this is what we did in the German context by supporting 10 candidates during the federal elections in 2021. And we are very happy to see 3 of them that actually came through and made it to the parliament. So 2 parliamentarians from the Social Democratic Party, Rasha Nase and Amon Zorn, and 1 parliamentarian from the Green Party, Kassem Saleh. And differences, of course, they are mostly due between Brand New Bundestag and Brand New Congress are mostly due to the different political systems that we're operating in. In Germany, according to our constitution, the political parties have a different position. They are much stronger. They are membership based. They're very hierarchical, and there are no public open primaries as we know it from the US. So the way that Brand New Bundestag operates is way more on a cooperative level with people within the party, with different factions within the parties. And we are basically just kind of tapping the parties on the shoulder and telling them, look, there are amazing people that you have among your membership. And don't you think it would be a good idea for them to run? They bring perspectives to the table which are underrepresented in German politics. Of course, this concerns people of color. It concerns people without higher education degrees, concerns women, which are still underrepresented, just to name a few, people with Eastern German biographies also. And we are decisively really pushing a bit better representation of these groups.
Thanks a lot. So we now had the point of view of an organization that basically tries to initiate new forms of political participation by supporting individual candidates. But we also have 2 people here today that actually made it to the Bundestag, Awet and Verena. It's been a huge success. So congratulations on your success. I think it's great that you made it. We need new and diverse and young voices in the parliament. So congratulations on that. And Awet, you have quite I would say, different background than many other candidates at the Bundestag. You have been a member of the Green Party for quite a couple of years, but you had a career as a lawyer, a quite successful one, I would say. So why did you decide to switch to politics? And you decided quite late, so you've been a lawyer for quite a while. So why did you decide to run for the Bundestag late? And also, was there maybe a moment that kind of changed something within you?
Yeah, well, actually, starting a new business is everywhere a hard job. So I never thought I would give up my office, because it really took us like 3 to 5 years until it started working, and was a hard time at the beginning. So now is the time actually to enjoy it and see that it's working. But nevertheless, I noticed in Germany over the last years that the discussion in public and in politics was turning more and more towards right, and even ministers saying words like migration is the mother of all problems was one quotation of a minister, which made me think, wait a minute, he's talking about me, because I was a migrant to Germany when I came to Germany, and there were a lot of these things. And again came moments where me and other POCs, we thought, now it's enough, this is too much, and another attack, another this and that. But personally, I don't know why, for me, the moment was the attacks of Hanau. There was a racist attack where 9 people were killed due to them looking like migrants, most of them born in Germany, even their parents born in Germany. And this point, it touched me very much. And it was a point where I just knew I couldn't continue the same way any further. And I knew I had to change something also. I think thinking about it now, I think it docked at a point where I was when I was at school. You know, there was in the 90s, there were these attacks at asylum homes, and these homes were burning, and people were standing there and applauding. And I was at a point where I was thinking, what's happening here? And actually, I was saying, when I finish school, I'm going to study in the US. There are more Black people in the US. I can live there and so on. And now 30 years back, it's at the same point, and I was really devastated. Now I have a child. I was thinking, what's going to happen with him? And again, the first thought was, I have to leave this country. Where can I go? Where can we go as a family? But we noticed, first of all, also seeing the developments in the US, there's no country where there's no racism. You can't flee. And also, I didn't want to give up, you know. Going away, leaving the country felt like giving up. So I decided to fight against racism. I wasn't thinking about being member of the parliament. Actually, I was doing it in the city I live. So we were thinking, okay, what can we do and what is there? But after a short time, I noticed I want to give up my job. I want to do it full time. And by the time most people decided already a year ago they wanted to candidate for parliament, and it was really last minute, but I said, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to ask anybody. I'm just going to do my own and see what happens. And I was glad to see that people supported me, actually, just say, oh, that's a good idea. And I had a lot of support, and now here I am.
Great, thank you. Verena, you're kind of similar to Awet. At least you have also been quite active with a political party, the Social Democrats, but you also decided to pursue a different career. You've been a quite successful businesswoman. Kitchen Stories, if you guys don't know it, Google it. You will be excited, I'm sure. And Verena, why did you actually decide to join the parliament or run for the Bundestag? And was there maybe also a moment for you that changed a lot for you, and which made you think, okay, I have to run, I have to change something, maybe I can change it if nobody else does?
Yes, so maybe the question first, why I joined politics. So I was working at Burger King during my studies in Trier, and there wasn't any minimum wage. And so I was making like €6 an hour, and I was looking to my colleague, and he was having to provide his family living and his child and stuff. And it wasn't enough money. And then back then, the Social Democrats were fighting for minimum wage, and we lost the election back in 2009. And then Merkel and Westerwelle, they basically were looking for hotel taxation exemptions and stuff. So Mövenpick-Steuer, if anybody still remembers here in the German audience. And it got me angry, and I decided to join the Social Democrats as a young business student. And I always believed in looking above my own interests. So creating a place and a space where not only the strong people get stronger, but where we look after each other and try to provide for fair and equal society. And then I started my own business after I completed my business studies. And as an entrepreneur, you always see what's not working, or you see missing potential. And I felt like, oh my God, here in Germany, we always say why we can't do things. We never go the American way, where we go like, hey, this can work out, or why don't we try this? And looking into our DAX, which is basically showing the valuation of companies, we don't really have a Google or an Apple. We have SAP, which was founded 50 years ago. So everything that's happening around digitization, that's happening around environmental transformation, we are really slow, we are uninspiring, we are behind. And I felt also that my party was doing really bad back then. So we were down at like 12, 13, 14%. And I was like, if I really want to change things and change in a way that with everything happening out there, we need to shape the future in a way that everybody can benefit from the future, and that we actually feel like that the future is something good and not something that we should be afraid of because everything is going to be bad anyways. So I felt like this is now the time to act. And then, as always in life, there was a window of opportunity. That window for me was that the local member of the German parliament, Katharina Barley, who also used to be our justice minister, moved to the European Parliament. So the local party was looking for somebody to follow up. And since we knew that we needed to do things different this time, everybody could apply. And I applied from Berlin back in my hometown, Trier. And I'm very happy that I got internally elected and that I now also got elected into German parliament and now ready to rumble.
Great, and we will talk about your experience and also Awet's experience in the Bundestag in a bit. I would actually continue with you, Max, because so you basically support individual candidates. How exactly do you do it? And also, it's not very easy to run for parliament or to join a political party if you're really outside of those structures and if you don't know someone who's maybe a member of a party. So how can we ease the way into parliament for young people?
Yeah, it's definitely a big challenge. I mean, everybody who knows political parties from the inside in Germany knows that it's really a complex kind of network, often a mix of people that have been around for a long time and some people that are coming in new with fresh ideas. And I think the challenge for every party is always to keep a healthy mix and to make sure that there's enough innovation also coming up. And as Verena described it, enough entrepreneurial approaches within the political system, which is something that I think we desperately need in order to tackle the big transformational challenges that are in front of us. So how does Brand New Bundestag work? Well, as I said before, there's a big difference compared to the US model Brand New Congress in that there are no public primaries. And Verena also just touched briefly upon it, that she needed to be internally elected before she could officially run for a party. So basically, what Brand New Bundestag mostly does is before these internal elections take place, we are scouting people that are progressive, that bring diverse perspectives to the table. And we are supporting them through internal workshops, but also through PR, basically. We're promoting them through press and social media. And we are also working with them kind of like to develop strategies, how they can best get the biggest kind of support within the regional parts of the parties. And this is basically what it's always a very individual approach, of course, because if you want to get internally elected in a political party, there can be many different factors that are relevant. And every regional scenario, every individual scenario will be different again. If I may again use the example that Verena gave, for example, she had the window of opportunity that there was an senior MP that left office, which gave her the opportunity to run. So first, when we start talking to candidates or potential candidates, we are talking to them about which electoral district would make sense for them to run in, where they have the best chances, also where maybe the electorate should be represented by someone who's sharing more of the perspectives of people actually living in the electoral district. And then we are developing this kind of plan. And we're really glad that, for example, in the case of Armand Zorn, who also won a direct mandate from Frankfurt am Main, For example, when we started talking to him, we were still discussing what electoral district would be best for him to run in. And then he had a very tight race internally within the party, where he had a competitor who he defeated, I think, by 10 or 12 votes in the end. And what very much helped him in the internal discourse was that he could tell his party, you know, I have a civil society group that is backing me up because they think I'm good representation for Frankfurt am Main. And then also he had Germany-wide news coverage, which usually if you're only running internally, you usually don't get. Usually people don't really know who's running internally. You only get to a higher press level, usually within the general electoral campaign. And in his case, it was the slight margin that there was enough for him to win the party internal nomination. And then luckily, due to the SPD trend, which really picked up during the federal campaign, he even managed to win the direct seat and is now a member of parliament.
Thanks, Max. I would like to talk a bit about Verena's and Awet's personal experiences in the Bundestag. Awet, you are the first Black woman in the Bundestag. This is a huge success and milestone for you personally, but actually I think for every Black girl or young person of color who, you know, aspires to be a politician as well. And I'm quite sure that it wasn't that easy to make it. So can you share a bit with us how you did it? How did you convince your party to believe in you and to actually let you run for the Bundestag?
Well, I think, to be honest, it's nothing I did by myself. You know, it just, I believe I was at the right spot in the right time, because there's a huge Black community working on this topic on diversity, representation. We have POCs nowadays in the media who are working on these topics in newspapers, in the TV, and who are marching on the streets. And I think this is the background which helped me actually get into parliament. So I can't really say this is how I did it, because I feel like we did it. You know, it's because if you have structural barriers, then it's not one person who can fight against it and achieve it. Then it wouldn't be structural barriers, actually. So it's a pity that I'm now the one who is the first Black, because it's a thing a community did. It's not something I did. You know, I'm representing actually the community. So I think this played a huge role that in my city, in Frankfurt, everywhere, Black people were getting active after Hanau, after Black Lives Matter. And we were talking about civil rights, about discrimination. And before, these things weren't really publicly discussed, you know. We would talk about extremism and Nazis, but not about racism. That this was nothing we would talk about, because you wouldn't touch on really ordinary people and tell them there's racism here in the society. That was impossible to talk about, but we talked about it. And I think that's what helped me a lot. So it's something we did as a community.
Thank you. And Verena, so you have, you know, you had your own business, and usually I think many people in Germany, when they hear about someone who's running a business, they usually think about the FDP, so the Liberal Party. So how is it for you, having this business background, being in the Social Democrats Party, and how do other members of parliament react to you? Do they take you seriously, or do they think that maybe you're not political enough for them? Maybe you just have this business perspective.
I think, in my opinion, being a founder is a perfect match for the Social Democrats, because it doesn't matter what your parents do. It doesn't matter if you study or not. It's only your ideas and your vision and your drive to work on an idea that makes you successful, ideally, because most of startups also are not successful, to be honest, in this context. But of course, people think like if you run a business, you need to be in a conservative or in like a business party. But I think times like these, we need to think the whole challenges together. I mean, if we're talking about transformation, about jobs of the future, what is a better way to think about these challenges out of an entrepreneurial perspective? Because my company was running on a mobile device. We only were able to scale via the Apple App Store. 10 or 15 years ago, we didn't even have an iPhone, and the world changes so fast. And I think this startup and entrepreneurial mindset is highly and muchly needed in looking into German parliament. If you look into all the jobs that most people have, we have a lot of teachers, we have a lot of Beamte. I don't know if it's that bad in the US, but in Germany, that's a special kind of mindset most of the time, where you tend to follow rules and not think about new stuff and new ways. So a lot of people got really excited about that startup spirit now coming to Bundestag, because that's not happening. We don't really have that revolving door system. So it's kind of unique, and I'm really excited to bring in that perspective.
Thanks, Verena. And Adrienne, welcome to you as well. It's great to have you. Thanks for joining us. And since the others have already talked a bit about their backgrounds and what they do, I would like to give you the opportunity as well. Can you maybe tell us a bit about Brand New Congress? What exactly do you do? How do you try to bring progressive ideas into the Congress?
Thank you. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this important discussion. I am the Executive Director of Brand New Congress, and we train, support, and endorse progressive federal candidates from across the country, because we recognize in America that we need transformational policies that are going to affect and enhance the lives of working people. We do know that we have a lot of politicians in our country that are bought, and they are bought by corporate dollars. And so our goal is to elect and promote candidates who are seeking, they don't take dark money or large PAC money. Their donations come from the people, because we truly believe that if you're going to represent the people, then you need to represent the people. And most of our politicians, unfortunately, they represent big corporations. And so we're working really hard to change that. It's a fight, it's a struggle, but it is a fight that we readily take on, because we truly believe that we will progress, and change will happen in America to where the working people will start getting the benefits that they need, such as healthcare for everyone, such as a good public education, such as being able to vote and to have your voting rights and your rights as a woman established. I am currently an educator in the public school system as well. I am a math interventionist. That means I'm really, really smart. It just means that I teach math and help support our student outcomes. So it's just a really challenging time that we're in right now in America, but we're used to challenges. And so we really expect that in the end, we're going to win.
Thanks, Adrienne. One thing that is interesting, because we're talking about brand new forms of political participation, but all of you actually chose either the Bundestag or the Congress, so being active via political parties. The question is actually for all of you. Do you think that's the only way to actually make a change, to be politically active? Or do you think there's another way? For example, why didn't you support activism? Or Adrienne, Verena, and Awet, why didn't you choose to be an activist instead of a politician? Max, do you want to start?
Yes, sure, my pleasure. Well, I mean, the perspective really from Brand New Bundestag, or when we started in 2019, and when we saw what basically Brand New Congress and Justice Democrats were doing in the US, we, of course, we as I said before, we realized we can't just copy paste it to Germany, right? Because we are in a different political system. We have different topics. I mean, for example, our political system, thank God, is not as controlled by corporate money. Corporate lobbyism is not as influential in Germany as it is in can maybe, I mean, sometimes that's what you said, the stereotype is that German politics is a bit boring compared to US politics, because it's not as much a big money game. It's not as populist as sometimes in the rhetoric that we use. But of course, we have other challenges. And the challenges, one of the major challenges that we saw was that in order to really make progress when it comes to this transformation towards sustainability, towards more fair paid jobs, towards more social justice, we really need to fight the root causes and really the foundation. We need to change the foundation of how our institutions work. And for this kind of mindset, you need a broad coalition between members of civil society, between members of the business society, and between and politicians. And so basically what Brand New Bundestag is trying to do is basically to build a bridge between these civil society movements and the political parties and the parliament, because we see a lot of dynamic in the social movement and the climate movement in Germany. And there is this energy that I believe we need in order to really make progress when it comes to transformational policies. But we rarely or not sufficiently see it within the political parties or within the political system. So what we are trying to do is basically to bring activists, people really fighting for social change on the ground in their local communities, to really bring them to parliament so that their voices can be heard even louder, and that they can inspire other people to also become politically active, in the sense also of the community organizing approach, of course, that also for our friends from the US is doing. So I would say what we're doing with Brand New Bundestag is somewhere in between politics in the original sense of the word and civil society activism. So I think we're kind of doing a mix here.
Adrienne, would you agree?
I would definitely agree. And I consider myself to be an activist. I began, or the light was lit for me regarding community organizing. And I started during President Obama's election, or during his re-election campaign. And I realized that the power that we have is in community organizing and really working out in our communities, making sure that our communities are connected. And so I put a lot of work in voter registration. I live in Texas, and Texas has one of the lowest voter participation rates in the country. Texas also is very highly gerrymandered, and we just there's new maps that are being drawn. Even though Texas has a huge growth in a diverse population, our maps are being drawn to where the majority that live in these districts are still white. And so it's a really great injustice to the diverse populations, the strength of the people that are in our areas. And so when I look at activism, I think activism is personal. Even in our education system, we can teach our students can be involved in activism, whether it's cleaning the neighborhood, whether it's visiting senior citizens' homes, places, and making sure that their voices are a part of that community. It's individual, and it's not just being in the political process, but for me, it's being a part of the community engagement, making sure we have policies that transform our communities. And being in a public school, the public owns the schools, and the community should feel as though they do own the schools and they have a voice in what goes on at school, and that they're a part of it. And so for me, all of that is activism. And as we commit individually to being activists, then the political needle will continue to change and continue to move and continue to shift.
Thanks. Awet, Verena, do you like to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Actually, it's I also think activism is very important. And before candidating for the Bundestag, I would have said I'm an activist. We were particularly after the attacks of Hanau, we noticed we don't have POC groups, Black groups, where you can exchange thoughts, where you can have activities. And we started having these groups and meeting and also sharing our thoughts and also our grief, actually. And we came to a point whenever there were panels in the city where I live, they would ask us, because everybody knew in the city now, the panels have to be diverse. And whenever there is a panel on like climate crisis, they would ask us, we would like to have POC perspectives on it. Would you like to join? So we achieved a lot, actually. But for me personally, I was at a point where I was really desperate, and I don't want only to work as a lawyer and then after work do my activism. I wanted to do it as a full-time job. The only possibility was going to Parliament, actually. And normally it's not easy, because you talk to a lot of people, and who's going to support you, who's against it, and is it okay, and so on. But when you're desperate, you have nothing to lose. And that's where I was. I said, I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm just going to candidate. And either the members will vote for me or not. But I have nothing to lose, because I was really, devastated, actually. And I felt like also, I see a lot of POCs and Black people who are active, doing activism and these things, but I don't see them in politics. Yeah. So when it comes to making the decisions, it's only white people deciding it. And that made me mad, actually, because we're going on the street and having our demands, but we're not sitting at the table when decisions are made. So it was also very important for me to open this door and see that we sit on the table when decisions about our life are made. So I think that's also equally important, and that's why I decided to go for Parliament.
Verena?
Yeah, a lot of important things have been mentioned. I believe it's the Parliament where you get things done and where you get to decide and be at the table. But I also believe it's not an either or. We need Fridays for Future. I was also part of, for example, demonstrations against the upload filter movement as part of an NGO. I think it's all really important in shaping conversations and shaping the discussions. But to make things happen, we need to be part of that Parliament, and that's why I decided to run.
Thanks to all of you. I still have a couple of questions, but I think that we could actually take the questions from the audience first. I think they fit to this topic. So the first one would be by Gabriele Weinberger. Thank you for your question, Gabriele. Finances constitute the biggest barrier to candidacy in the US. What was the most difficult part in your becoming a representative? I think this is for Awet and Verena.
Yeah, so of course, elections are really expensive, and everything you need to get and organize, like posters and ads and stuff. So for me, the party actually supported me, but that's different everywhere, because depending on how stable the party in your region is, you get more or less. And for example, people not far away from my election district got nearly nothing because the party wasn't able to provide a lot of funding. So I got a solid base, but I also am in a really privileged situation that having built my company, I was able to sell some percentage in it. And so I had a financial buffer that allowed me to live off my savings the whole year, and also to use a lot of my fundings for the campaign. And then thirdly, a lot of people also donated for my campaign, because independent of their political ideas, they felt like we need different people. We need to go different ways. So a lot of my entrepreneurial friends donated some money for the campaign. So it was also people funded, and that were basically the three pillars. But money shouldn't be the reason to run or not to run. I think with less money, sometimes more creative stuff happens. And luckily in Germany, we are not like in the US, where you need millions to do stuff, since TV ads and things like that. Negative campaigning is not a thing here. So I think that money helps, but it's not the prerequisite.
Thanks. Awet, do you agree?
Yeah, actually, money is not such a big topic as in the US, but still also here it is because, we've been campaigning for almost a year. And in this year, I couldn't work as a lawyer. Yeah. And still, I have to feed my child somehow. So I was glad that my husband was supporting me. We agreed that we'll have less income because this is important for us and for our child. And that's how we said we're going to do it. And I think that was the moment. It's not about the campaign because the campaign itself is financed by the party mainly. But you need the time. You need to have the time. You're not working in these months. You're campaigning, and it's not so easy. And as Verena said, I also was in a privileged situation. Both my husband and me, we are both lawyers. We can afford to say, okay, one will work and the other one will not work. Not everybody can afford to do that, actually. It's not so easy 1 year without having income and just doing politics for fun, so to say. So that's not easy. And also, as I said, it was my own decision. It's a decision I made with my family. So I didn't have a big team or something, because everybody was saying, yeah, you have somebody who's gonna lead your campaign, and you have a team where one is doing social media and the other one is doing this. I didn't have all this. It was just me and my family, so to say. So yeah, that's the hard part. But it's not about finance. It's about having the time and the strength to do it, and not having this big team which is supporting you, just doing it on yourself. Also, I was candidating in a very rural area, so talking there about diversity and racism, people would react, so and what are you going to do for us, and was like yeah, but this is still important. But it's it's different than campaigning with these topics in areas like Kassel or Frankfurt or something, where you have big POC communities. So these were the different difficult parts, but nevertheless I knew it's okay. I knew they don't understand it. They don't see what these topics have to do with them, actually. But I think you just, if you have it in your mind, you say, I'm going to do it, and feel like you're standing with your back against the wall, then you do it.
Thanks, Awet. But to me, it sounds a bit as if it is a matter of privileges at the end, if you can run or not, and which also leads me back to how diverse or not diverse both the Congress and the Parliament are, not just in terms of ethnic background, but social background, academic background. So how can we actually change that? And I think that it's quite frustrating for young people to see that they cannot run because they don't have the finances, maybe not the academic background. So how can you support them, Max and Adrienne? Because brand new Congress and brand new Bundestag cannot support every person who wants to become politically active. So is there maybe an advice that you have for these people?
You said that so great. We can support every progressive, but we can't endorse every progressive because you just don't have the resources for that. One thing I also find is that we have politicians who get into office and they don't leave. And they've been in Congress for 40 years and they're in their 80s and they just don't leave because they have the name recognition so they can continue being elected. And that is very frustrating for young people. How do I get into Congress if you won't ever leave and give us the opportunity? And so we continue to encourage younger people to run for office. We encourage women to run for office. In the U.S., to run for office, congressional races, you're talking $1 to $2 million. It is hard to run here because if you're not privileged, if you're a Black woman, you're going to raise less money than a white woman. And that's just the way that it is, and especially less than a white male. And so there's just a lot of different barriers to running for office in the United States. But we just continue to encourage young people to run, to become involved in politics, to where they can really get in and find their place. If they want to run for office, run for office. You know, if you're scared, still run for office. But it does take having mentors who will help you get through that, because I'm going to say it again, we've got a lot of people that have been in office a very, very long time. And with the way we're gerrymandered and places are set up, it's like, if you don't move and allow the opportunity for someone else to come in with newer ideas, then we're just stuck in the same old situations.
May I add something to it? What's also, I think, very important, like people like me being now in parliament, we have a huge possibility to open doors.
Mm-hmm.
Like people can, you know, it's one financial aspect is one, but being in the system, having the experience, having connections, all these things also lacked to POCs and Black people. You know, they come out of communities where they don't have connections with the parliaments, with important people who will support them, who will show them the way, and so on. So I think also having some people in parliament can also help to open doors, like, you know, who are going to work in my office, whom can I open the doors, who are going to have the experience. So having worked in my office for some years, maybe they can candidate themselves then because they know how it works and so on. So I think we should be aware of these possibilities too, and really, consider who we open the doors and who we don't see.
I can only very briefly add to this. I mean, basically, Adrienne and Awet, you both said it. This is also what Brand New Bundestag, of course, is trying to achieve, to encourage people to run for office and to then see parliamentarians in the Bundestag that actually share the kind of experiences that people are experiencing every day, and to say, well, I mean, someone with my background made it to parliament, I should be running as well. So I think this is very important. And then also, I mean, just being active within our kind of like grassroots organization sometimes can inspire people to run. There's the example of Lena Verena, who's actually also a member of parliament now of the Bundestag, who a year ago was a volunteer at Brand New Bundestag. And she never had the idea to run for office, but then she was active within BNB, and she realized, well, okay, we need more young people, we need more women to run. And then her party was looking for also someone to run in her electoral district, and she said, well, okay, let's do it. So I mean, the volunteers, for example, over 200 volunteers that are active at Brand New Bundestag, many of them are very interested in politics, but they never entered a party or never became actively engaged in a party, because they always thought, well, it's too complex and the networks, and I don't know anyone there. And so this is basically also, I said, where we're trying to be a bridge, not only between the movement and the parliament, but also really for young people, for diverse people, to really have this bridge, and as I would say, to open doors. And one last aspect that you mentioned before, when it comes to finances, I think something that is still really under discussed in German politics is the fact that we have an absurd misrepresentation of people that do not have a college degree in German politics. So there are rarely any people that have a mandate, that are members of a parliament or of a state legislature, that didn't go to college. And of course, this is something systemic as well. And Awet, you described it before, Verena, you described it before. I'm also a lawyer, I'm also privileged. I also have the privilege that I could, if I would be wanting to run for office, I could just say, well, okay, I would pause my attorney practice for a while. But people that are working in everyday working class jobs, many of them just don't find the time or don't even see the opportunity for themselves to say, well, okay, now I'm just going to pause my job for a year. Well, who's going to pay the bills, right? And this is since the political parties in Germany have such a strong position. In our opinion, they are the ones that are really also that need to be addressed and need to be more active to proactively seek these funds and to proactively support and foster opportunities of people that have working class backgrounds and work in working class jobs.
Thanks, Max. And since you're already talking about how we can basically diversify the Bundestag or the Congress, and how we can, get young people to participate in politics, I'd like to take a question from the audience by Daniel Diaz, who says that COVID-19 increased both the amount of social distancing and the use of technology across both Germany and the US. Has the increased reliance on social media and technology to promote political campaigns, in your opinion, served to increase youth participation in politics? So I think this is a question which, is for each and every one of you. So whoever wants to go first can go first.
I'll start. When COVID happened, I was running for Congress here in Texas, District 14, and everything just shut down. And of course, we had to seek to just go virtual, which I was also teaching at the same time. So I was going through that as well, where school shut down and we had to just go to virtual instruction. Running a campaign virtually during that time is awfully, awfully difficult. We have the challenge here of, and across America, of voter participation. And so if we're already not engaged and they're already not participating, to try to get that to just move to a virtual platform, we had campaigns that just didn't do anything because there were instructions, we're going through this hard time. People are not concerned about politics and to not do anything. Well, of course, in America and how COVID and all the deaths that have occurred because of COVID became political. It was a political issue instead of a medical issue here. And so I don't see where it engaged more young people, because we were already in the process of really seeking to get our young people engaged, to get our colleges engaged, to do college campus visits, and all that had to get squashed. And so it really hurt our campaigns and running against incumbents.
I would also say that everything shut down during COVID, and it rather helped to digitize the party that wasn't digital before. So all looking into the German party system, it's rather old than young. And so all the old people suddenly were able to conduct a meeting online. And we were thinking about creative ways to talk to people. So we had like Zoom living room engagements, also with like neighbors and stuff. So we were trying to think about things to engage and not lose touch in a way that especially included anyone and made us jump and try out new things. And for me, for example, I did a weekly diary on Instagram where I was just sharing my experience, what I was up to, a lot of Insta lives and stuff like that. But young people, I believe I rather got engaged with when I went door to door. For example, I was like knocking on the door in late summer, or I was doing like pub crawls to talk to people about politics where they wouldn't expect politics, because I believe that we need to be out of our bubble and not hosting events where we talk about really important stuff, but to those events, people come that are already interested. And I think we need to interest people for issues and to get into a conversation, and that they feel like, wow, these people are normal people. It's not like something else that I am not able to talk to. And so I was out there a lot. I was also interning in a hospital, with the postal service, in a bakery, in order to not only talk with the management about issues, but with the people by working with them. So that was kind of my approach in the post, or the area or the time when COVID got better after vaccination was happening. But yeah, digital, I think everybody's over digital now a little bit. So hopefully we can get back together in a lot of rooms soon.
Thank you. And Awet, do you agree with that? Or what were the most effective methods for you to get the youth involved?
Actually, when COVID started, I wasn't thinking about getting into parliament, actually. It was shortly after the attacks of Hanau. And I was, I was in a mood of grieving. And when I go to the city, everybody was preparing for Carnival, so I didn't feel like interacting with people out there because I felt like they didn't understand what was going on inside me. So social media and all these things was really helpful because everybody was going on Zoom, and there were BIPOC festivals on Zoom, and there was Afro festivals on Zoom, and we had like Twitter group Afro Germans on Twitter, and I was starving for these connections. I needed these connections to breathe, to gain clarity also, to understand what's happening, what do we need as a community. So yeah, it was a big opportunity for me actually, because I don't have to travel all over Germany because we were all meeting on Zoom, and we were all of a sudden we were a lot of Black people and BIPOCs, and it was really helpful for me actually. So at the moment, it was not about politics and so on, but it was about, my own grief, and I don't know where to go with these emotions, with whom to talk. So it was a big help having this media and being able to find people who are in the same situation, who understood what I felt and who felt the same way. So I was really glad that this happened right after Hanau. Was a big help, actually.
Thank you. To be honest, I have about 1 million questions left, but we don't have that much time, unfortunately. But I would still like to give the four of you the chance to say some final words to the audience, maybe something that you would still like to tell our audience. Max, since you've started in the beginning, you can start now as well.
Well, first of all, of course, I would like to thank all of you for putting together this amazing panel. It was really great to connect, even though it was digitally once again. But Adrienne, great pleasure to at least see you on the screen. Our sister organization over in the US would be great to chat further. And I mean, final words, I think we have huge challenges in front of us when it comes to really making this whole capitalistic society more sustainable and create more social justice. And I think we need a lot of people that are courageous, that go new ways, that are entrepreneurial, that also think in networks and bring together different perspectives. And I really enjoyed discussing with you today, and I hope it's the beginning of a conversation. Awet and Verena, hope to see you soon in the political bubble of Berlin, and Adrienne, hope to see you soon again as well. And Tiaji and Diba, of course, once you make your way back, DIVERSITRY, I think what you guys are doing is very close also to what we are aiming to achieve in the political system, what you're trying to do in the public institutions. So thanks a lot from my side to all of you.
Thanks. Adrienne.
Well, I couldn't think of a better way to spend a Saturday morning. It is really good to have open dialogue and have different opinions, but then also opinions that are united. And so my encouragement to our young people is to stay involved. If you're not involved, to get involved. If you think that you don't matter to the movement, you're wrong. Because this movement of talking about climate change and actually doing something about it, making sure that we have good jobs, making sure that we have good quality education, it affects the future. And so what we are doing is fighting for the future, and we need to make sure that all the young people are part of that fight. And so to just piggyback and talk about, mentoring, find yourself a mentor, find someone and just ask somebody, would you be my mentor? And you'll find someone that will say yes. I'm really glad to have members of parliament. I see Germany is so different from America, and I am so excited of how you all are operating, and just really thankful that you're open to opening your doors to teaching someone else about the political process. And I think if we did more of that, then we would see the participation of our young people increase. But I'm really encouraged in what I'm seeing with our young people, because in Texas, when we win, it's going to be because of the young people. They're not going to let all the old folks stop them from progressing. So thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this and allowing me to be part of this distinguished panel.
Thanks, Adrienne. Thanks for being here. Awet, would you like to continue?
Yeah, that was a great pleasure for me too, because as Max already said, it's important that we network actually, especially as a Black woman. In Germany, we always look towards the US because we don't have like Afro-German studies or something like that here in Germany. We have that in the US actually, Afro-German studies, which is really strange. So we, when it comes to finding our identity, discussing our problems, we always also look towards the discussions going on in the US. So yeah, so I really appreciate that we have this opportunity to exchange opinions and meet each other, and I would love it if that would go on.
Finally, Verena.
Yeah, I think the next 10 years are the most crucial ever in shaping or saving the planet, providing new jobs and getting us through all the transformation. And I think in order to do that, we need we need a fresh view on things, and we need to be more, German mood. So we need to try out things, and we need to be bold. And I'm really happy that looking into the SPD parliament group, there's 206 people. Half of them is new. Half of them is under the age of 40. We are also a lot of diverse backgrounds in terms of jobs, but also migration history and stuff. And I think we do have a really unique opportunity now to also do things differently and and that's what I like about Awet, be a role model for the next generation and encouraging people to also move into politics. And I think things like brand new Bundestag, but also joint politics that heavily supported me and where I was part of the initiative is the way to go in disrupting politics and into giving new ways a shot. And now we're here to change. And I'm really excited also to meet Awet in Bundestag soon on Tuesday. Hopefully I get to see you in the konstituierende Sitzung. And happy to also connect to the US, because I think the world is more connected than ever. And we really also need to work on our transatlantic relationship. And I'm happy to do so in a conference and in a setting like this, and hopefully even more in the future. So thanks for bringing us together this morning or evening.
Thanks, Verena, and thanks to the four of you. It has been a pleasure to moderate this event, and I want to thank you for giving us these insights to your work, and also for all the commitment that you have every day to change the world, to get people active, to believe in the future generations. Thank you for just being here. It's been a pleasure for me, and it was very interesting to listen to all of you. And thanks to the audience for being here as well. And yeah, I think Tiaji, you still wanted to say something, so that's it for me. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, also from my side, thank you. I think all of you are great role models for us, and it was very interesting listening to you. I just have a few logistical things. So the webinar will actually end now, and we will have like a 1-hour lunch break. In the meantime, in 10 minutes at 1 o'clock Eastern time, there will be a networking event with the German American Business Council, which you can all join on SoWork, our digital interactive platform. So feel free to join or grab lunch, and then we'll meet you after the lunch break in the webinar again. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day.